The One Piece live action is bad, and aside from the music, and the casting is actually really good, and actually the action scenes, the acting, the attention to detail, and the very clear love for the source material. Okay, you know what? Let me try that one again. The One Piece live action is good, except for a few things, I guess. And let me be clear, I am a massive One Piece fan. Welcome to this, whatever this is, by the way. I'm Shao, rapper, manga author, occasional ninja, and a huge One Piece fan, and have been for the longest time, and not a huge fan of live action adaptations. I'm still haunted by the Dragon Ball Evolution. Oh my gosh, let's not talk about that. Anyway, so when I first heard that One Piece was getting a live adaptation, I was highly skeptical. I had a few choice words to say. I probably swore quite a bit and was very upset that people keep trying to ruin things that I love. And you know what? They didn't ruin it. They did not. They did a very, very good job with it. There's obviously room for improvement. And I think my very first top line, if you take anything away from this video type thing, is that if you are a One Piece fan, you're probably going to enjoy this a lot. If you've never heard of One Piece, or you're just not familiar with the source material, I think that you might struggle a little bit, but not for the reasons you would think, okay? I was gonna do this whole thing like super structured, and then I realized I don't do that here, so I'm just gonna kind of chat about my experience watching it. Firstly, when I first heard that the original voice actors were going to be dubbing, the original Japanese voice actors were gonna be dubbing the series, I think that was the point when I was like, okay, I'm going to, against my better judgment, believe in this series now and believe that it's going to be good, and actually start getting myself excited and risk being heartbroken. And the funniest part for me was the Japanese dub of it was maybe my least favorite part. And it's not because the Japanese voice actors did anything wrong per se, it's just that I don't think it works in my mind. You know, the scripting was really good, but a lot of the stuff is not the sort of thing that Luffy would say as a character. You know, there were parts where he was introspective, there were parts where he was very self-aware and showed concern and self-doubt and things like that. And hearing that in Luffy's Japanese voice just didn't work for me. It might work for you, I don't care, this is my channel. But yeah, it just didn't work for me. And Luffy is not somebody who says a lot all the time. You know, he is very much an intuition-based character and very simple-minded and laser-focused in his goals. So to hear Luffy have, you know, live-action Luffy, to have a whole lot of speech and saying a bunch of stuff and quipping and wisecracking, to me it just sounded weird in the Japanese voice. But in the English voice, in Inyaki's voice, I hope I said your name right, my dude, yeah, it worked. And the way that I described it to my wife is, it just feels like this is an alternate reality Luffy. It's Luffy, but it's not Luffy. It's Luffy if he were a real person. I think that's probably the closest you're gonna get. And I think that's very brave that they didn't do a one-to-one and really try and make it Luffy, animated Luffy, because I just don't think it works. So yeah, I think they did a really good job there, and I love the costume choices. I love the attention to detail, down to, you know, episode, I think it was 2, where we meet Buggy, and I was super skeptical about Buggy, I'm not gonna lie. I was really worried, especially because of how we've seen the Joker get done. But Buggy was good. He was sinister. The nose joke caught me off guard and I liked it. There was a mention of Richie the lion, which was great because I was like, yo, where's the lion? And then they brought that up. And there was even, in Luffy's flashback, a reference to Gallery La and Water 7. And there's just lots of little Easter eggs dotted around the series, which, if you know your stuff and you're paying attention, this is gonna be like a second, third, fourth watch. You're gonna catch this stuff. And I love that as well. I think my main issues, and the reason for the clickbaity title and the reason I would say that I didn't like the live action, is simply because it needed more episodes, it needed more time. The series very much relies on your understanding of the characters of One Piece, the show, and everything like that. And if you don't have that, I think there are so many gaps that you don't automatically fill in your mind just by being like, okay, yeah. For instance, Zoro and Sanji not liking each other and having this rivalry, that's almost immediate in the live action. You know, Zoro's like, yo, why did we bring the waiter or whatever? And it's like, yo, dude, you don't have to be rude. You know, they're meant to be a crew and they're meant to be getting along. And yeah, okay, there's a little bit of animosity between Nami and Zoro from the beginning, but they're not straight out rude to each other from day dot. And these people are meant to be sailing together. And I think I know the only reason this is happening is because we as the audience and we as One Piece lovers understand that there's this rivalry between Zoro and Sanji, and they don't like they do like each other, but they don't like each other. But that rivalry was built up, and it really came to a head in Little Garden, when they were searching for who could defeat the biggest dinosaur. And there was a whole story about the parallels between Dory and Broggy, and I loved all of that. And I just feel that you don't get that because you don't have enough episodes. And I think that is the fundamental problem for me with the One Piece live action. There's just not enough episodes to flesh things out. You don't get the Island of Rare Animals, I think it is, where Luffy displays his humanity and his kindness and really displays why he's different to other pirates, and that's when Nami starts to, you know, really appreciate Luffy for who he is. As a result, you get, in my opinion, jarring scenes where, you know, the fight between Zoro and Mihawk, fantastic. Mackenyu, I think is his name. Excellent Zoro, excellent actor, incredible. I really like his deadpan Zoro. At times it's a little bit like, okay, show a little bit more emotion, but I think his blaseness really comes across quite nicely. And if they expand on the character and make him more comedic at choice times, it's gonna be great. But the fight between Zoro and Mihawk, really, really good considering what they had to work with from the anime. And then, you know, he almost dies, and then he wakes up and he's like, you're my captain, I'm gonna stick with you. And it's like, hold on, why? What did Luffy do aside from watch? You know, at least in the anime, Luffy fully went with the intention of attacking Mihawk, and Luffy and Zoro had a bit of time to develop that relationship between each other. But if we really think about it, Luffy and Zoro meet each other. Luffy rescues Zoro from being stuck in a yard and potentially dying of hunger, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you owe your life to this person forever and ever. He then is about to leave and decides to turn back to help Luffy and Nami for some reason, despite the fact that, you know, his character seemed like he was very much I have my own thing going on type brother. And then they get captured by Buggy, and for the most part, Zoro and Nami miss out on a lot of Luffy's ideals and what he's saying, and you know, his whole interactions between him and Buggy. Then we find out that Luffy is Garp's grandson, and we never really address that, by the way. Nami's like, yo, that's kind of messed up, we should talk about this. And then there's this hilarious scene between Zoro and Luffy's where, like, it's like, okay, do you want to talk about it? No, I'm good. Okay, bye. But it kind of needs to be addressed, and they just glossed over that part. And then there's Baratie, and they hang out for a little bit, but they don't really hang out because Luffy is now the chore boy. And another thing, by the way, what happened with that? Luffy owed money for the bill, and then Zeph was making him clean dishes, and then suddenly he's like, yeah, Sanji, go with this guy that I've just met who owes us a lot of money. Because why? Because he saved Baratie from Arlong, but he didn't really, because Arlong just decided to leave, and actually Nami saved them. And actually the reason Arlong was even there was because of Luffy. So realistically, all of that damage should be attributed to Luffy, and Luffy should not be leaving Baratie. In the anime, we have more time. You know, we've got Don Krieg and all of that, and there's an actual reason. And Sanji sees how hard Luffy is fighting for people he doesn't even know, and that's what endears him to the cause, you know? Whereas, for the most part, it's very much a case of this guy comes along and goes, hey, follow your dreams. And the other person's like, I never thought of it like that. I'm gonna follow you, stranger. And that's the extent of the character relationships, really. And I think another 2 episodes really could have benefited so much more. I think One Piece live action at its best was in the bar when they were just hanging out and just mucking about and talking, and the part between Zoro and Nami where they're chatting and getting to know each other, or the part with Sanji and Zeph. That was incredible. The first part, like when I saw the trailer for that, I was like, okay, these people can act, right, I'm in, So there's so many good parts, but it's just the most annoying part for me is that Netflix are releasing all of these behind the scenes and, bits with the actors just hanging out and doing lots of dumb stuff and fun stuff and etc. And all of that really shows the love that they have for each other, and that they are a crew, not just in the show, but amongst themselves as people. I wanted to see more of that, I just wanted to see the interaction, so that when Zoro pledges his sword to Luffy, it feels deserved and understandable. When I see things that I wish could have been better, I want to talk about it. And this is not really me complaining, as just talking about my experience with the show, because I would wholly recommend watching it. I think that if you are daunted by the number of episodes of One Piece, the live action is a great way to get yourself in. Like, it's a good kickstart. They very succinctly distill a lot of the key points of the show down into hour-long episodes. But lest we forget, the anime is actually like 22, 24 minutes. So realistically, it's one episode is covering 2 episodes of the anime. So, Kokoyashi Village, they called it Coco Village for some reason. I don't like that. Kokoyashi Village, that's around the 40s. So with 8 episodes, you would have done 16. So yeah, it's still half the time, I guess. And here's the upshot: you get to miss out on Syrup Village and the whole nonsense with Captain Kuro, which was excruciating, not gonna lie, in the anime. And I think a lot of that was actually down to the way that they drew Usopp. For me, I just couldn't stand it, and just the animation wasn't top notch then, but it was just very slow. So I do like how they did Syrup Village, and they made it a lot more enjoyable. Usopp, on the other hand, like, why did he join the crew, please? Because aside from the fact that he had the Yasop connection, he literally kissed Kaya before they got on the ship. And bro, I'm gonna be real. I'm gonna be like, yo, you're going to do what? And you're chased by who? And this girl's rich, and she's into me, and she owns the ship. I'm gonna stay here. Like, your life is made, mate. Okay, he wants to be a brave warrior of the sea, but he doesn't explicitly express that until the final episode. And I think another thing that I have issue with for the live action is I genuinely don't think they know what to do with Usopp yet. I thought it was a really interesting choice to have, I think his name is Jacob, so a black Usopp, love it, but more specifically a short-nosed Usopp, and they really played into that when he drew the version of his own pirate flag and had the short nose. So yeah, I don't hate that Usopp doesn't have a long nose, because I think it would look weird, but the character himself, I don't think they have a place for him yet, and I don't think they've quite worked out what to do with him yet. Case in point, episode 7, which is my least favorite episode, and I'll get into that in a minute. Usopp spends a lot of the time complaining and talking to nobody, and rewatch it and you'll see what I mean. He says a lot of stuff and just gets ignored. He's like, hey, we should go back to the ship, and everyone's like, oh, yeah, okay, and continue the conversation. And Usopp's role just isn't very much defined, aside from slight comic relief. Whereas in the anime, yes, he's a coward, and yes, he's a liar, and yes, he's very clearly trying to find his place, but that he has the time and the room to expand on that. Whereas this Usopp is very much feels like a third wheel, or even a sixth wheel at this point. He's just kind of there saying things, and people don't even bother to react to him, and that's disappointing. He gets his moment in episode 8, but it doesn't really feel deserved, because he just doesn't really feel like a proper character. I've connected the dots in my mind because I know who Usopp is in the anime, but putting my I've never seen the show, I don't know anything about it hat on for a second, you're looking at this guy and you're like, who is he and why is he there? You know, what's the point of him? And he's kind of good with a slingshot, but he's meant to be this guy who's got good aim, but he couldn't even load a cannonball into the cannon. And I'm sure we will get a payoff in the now announced season 2 where Usopp becomes more useful, but it just feels like he wasn't fleshed out enough. And on a side note, that brother murdered somebody in cold blood. Well, not in cold blood, but he murdered somebody. He fully murdered Chew, like burned him to a crisp. It was like, yay! It's the first person he's ever killed, and he's like, yay! I thought that was a bit weird as well. I'm not gonna lie. He's like actively celebrating somebody's death. On another note, I do like the direction that the live action took to actually kill people, because Oda Sensei, the greatest of all time, in his infinite wisdom decided not to murder anybody for the longest time, whereas in the live action we have Alvida just smashing people's heads in because they looked at her funny. And I think that's great because it really does establish the menace and the threat of the pirates, especially someone like Alvida, who was very much a joke character and was just a fat woman, and that was basically her thing. I'm very interested to see what they're going to do with the slip fruit, and whether they're going to make her slim down for that, or get a new actress, or they're just going to be like, Rago, we're just going with her as is, and you're going to have to deal with it because no more sexism. I don't know. So that'll be interesting to see for season 2. So yeah, they've decided to kill people off, but then you get the problem of Mary dies in episode, I want to say 3 or 4, I think it's the end of episode 3. Mary dies, and then they knock Zoro in the head and knock him out. And it's like, this guy is down for the count, and I'm pretty sure you know who he is because of rumors, so you know he's dangerous. Why would you, Captain Kuro, either not kill him or command your crew to kill him right then and there, instead of just dashing him down the well? Okay, yeah, you didn't expect him to get out of the well, but do you know what stops people getting out of the well even more? Being dead. So by introducing the fact that pirates are willing to kill other people into the plot, I think you then have this plot hole of why would you not kill Zoro, aside from because the story needs to happen. I think that the special effects were good. They didn't overuse it. I think the stretching of Luffy looked decent, and I was really, really worried about that, but because they didn't overdo it and they don't have him stretching all the time, you get away with not seeing the CGI as much, which is nice. I'm disappointed we don't get to see Luffy punch the Lord of the Coast in the face. Speaking of took the arm, the whole Shanks thing now for me, and these small changes, they seem small, but for me they make a difference, because when Shanks now saves Luffy on the boat, and Took the Arm is staring at him and going, hey, I'm going to take your arm, and Shanks is like, no, you're not, and Took the Arm's like, yeah, got your arm. If it's the Shanks that we know it is, and we know it is because he displays haki, why would he just stand there and let that happen, you know? Whereas in the anime, he's in the water and he jumps in front of Luffy to save him last minute. In this version, Shanks has enough time to react to the fact that his arm is about to get took. So that was a little bit disappointing. It again seemed like Shanks lost his arm because Shanks needed to lose his arm. I'm sad that Lucky Roo doesn't appear next to a bandit and just shoot him in the face, because that would have been far more badass, but we do get a really cool fight scene with the crew. I like the power scaling as well, because Luffy is not OP from the beginning and does have the potential to lose, and it shows that there is room to grow as well. Whilst we're on the subject of plot holes, a big one again for me was, why the hell did Arlong need a map to the Grand Line? He's a fisherman. Aside from, okay, maybe you want to know where these islands are, but then how do other fishermen get around? And you don't have to worry about the calm belt per se, because you can find your way around it. So the whole reason for him needing a map to the Grand Line is a little bit shaky for me. I could maybe, puzzle it together in my head and add some elastic bands and some duct tape and make it work. But from what we know about Fishman, it just doesn't make sense. At least with Buggy wanting a map to the entrance to the Grand Line, that at least made sense because it's Buggy and he's going to forget these sorts of things. But for Arlong needing just a general map of the Grand Line, why? Why, you know? Furthermore, why did he even bother chasing after Luffy? Because we get the reveal at I think the end of episode 2 that Nami is working for somebody else, and she speaks to somebody and says, tell him I've got the map. So Arlong knows that Nami's got the map. So why is he chasing after Luffy if he knows that the thing that he's chasing after Luffy for is already in the possession of somebody who works for him, regardless of whether she's with him or not? I think he knows enough about her over those years to know that she's not just gonna straight out abandon the villagers. Speaking of, let's get to episode 7 for a second, because I really, really want to talk about that. I think most of the problems for me with the show are in episode 7, which overall then, in my opinion, makes the show a success if the majority of the problems are restricted to just one episode. And they're not huge problems, but it's just minor stuff like in Kokoyashi, I refuse to call it Koko, in Kokoyashi village, the house is still overturned after, what, 10 years? Like, bros, why is the house still overturned? You know, like, build a new house. My favorite scene, and the moment I fell in love with One Piece, was the Nami scene. You know, the Luffy help me. Atarimaida, of course I will. And I know that the One Piece live action crew knew how important that scene was. And I think because of how important they knew that scene was, they tried too hard to one-to-one it. They tried too hard to pay it homage. And I think as a result, it falls flat. That was the first time I was watching it, and it felt like two people cosplaying as Luffy and Nami rather than Luffy and Nami real life, you know. The shots, the way they tried to do it, they very much tried to follow the anime, and it just didn't work. And I think that would have been a great time to be brave and deviate slightly from how it was presented and do it in their own way and still maintain the emotional effect of it. You know, because we don't get the part when Nami confronts Arlong and Arlong's like, when did I go back on my deal? You know, it's not my fault the Marines found your money. You could just get it again. You know, we don't get that. What we get is Nami running from the graveyard to a field because that's where she needs to be. And it's like, where are you running to? Why were you running? And why did you stop in that exact place? And then Luffy suddenly turns up, you know? It just feels like Nami needed to be there, so we're gonna have her run from here to there. The extreme close-ups felt very jarring for me, and they do that throughout the series, and it feels a little bit weird, but it also feels like they're trying to do something interesting and stylistic. So I didn't mind it too much, but at that point, when we were trying to get that emotional connection, it kind of just didn't work. And again, it's you know, Luffy sits in on Nojiko's explanation of what happened with Nami, and that is again a fundamental difference between live action Luffy and anime Luffy. Anime Luffy didn't give a damn what was going on. He just knew that he believed in Nami and he was willing to help her regardless of knowing the situation or not. So when Nami's like, you don't even know what's going on here, and Luffy's like, well, live action Luffy's like, no, I don't. Well, you kind of do, bro, because you just heard the story. So, and again, Iñaki just felt like he was playing it too seriously. He was like, no, I don't. You told me to leave. I told you to leave. Yes, you did. Whereas, again, the scene in the anime, Luffy was kind of like, yeah, you told me to leave. Yeah, no, I know, but hold my hat. Let me go deal with this for you. You know, it was different. The energy was different. I think what I'm saying is I just wish they didn't try to one-to-one it so much there, because it didn't need it. They were doing so well with taking a little bit of creative license with the show and reinventing it and reinterpreting it. I think that scene would have been so much better with a reinterpretation, personally. By the way, the casting, fantastic. The costumes, fantastic. Again, again, the attention to detail, you know, the fact that for the most part, the Straw Hat crew were wearing outfits that they have worn in the show or on front covers. Chef's kiss, beautiful. I'm mad that Sanji does not have his swirly eyebrow. I don't care if it would have looked silly. We have lost a whole reason for Zoro to make fun of Sanji, and it's very upsetting. You could have done it and made it work, you know? Sorry, I refuse to accept that. Garp being the main antagonist for season 1 initially was a little bit grating for me, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna see where this goes. They made it work, and I don't hate it because they had an overarching point that they were trying to put across, and I think it works. I think the new Garp, you know, the live action Garp, he's a lot more serious, although he does display comedic and silly hints, and I hope that they really start bringing that through more with season 2. I think the actor for Garp was fantastic. I'm sorry, I don't know his name, I can't remember, so I don't want to just guess. Fantastic. I love the range of accents, I love the range of characters, I love the diversity in the roles. It's not whatever the hell you call it. What do you people call it? PC or woke, or, you know, it worked. A South African Nojiko, I think she was South African, I think that's where her accent was from. I like that. You know, it didn't detract from anything for me to have different ethnicities of the characters and even different genders of the characters, because I believe Kuro's crew, I think it was Butchie, one of the crew anyway, was a woman instead of a dude, and there was no issue for me with that. I don't think it detracted from anything. Having said that though, Zoro is not escaping the allegations, bro. Like, the very first thing this guy does is cut down a black man. Bro, like, did you not hear the rumors? And then episode, what is it, 4, Baratier? Is it 4 or 3? I think it's 3. Baratier, this brother's like, yeah, I only had one friend. Then I was like, hold on, I swear there was loads of people in the Swordsmith village. And then I look back and there's all these black people, and I'm like, and then furthermore, we get it, the fishmen are black, you can stop pushing the slavery thing, and did you need hip hop during that part? We got it. And who's the first person to run in and start cutting down fishmen? It's Zoro, you know, like, can we talk about this, please? So, yeah, there's that. But still, I think Makenyu as Zoro, fantastic casting. He's really good, very, very good. I loved it. I think Taz as Sanji, excellent. Again, I think Jacob as Usopp needs more work. I think that Jacob himself is fantastic. I just don't think he had a lot of room to shine. Emily Rudd as Nami, yeah, I think she's a great actress. I think that she played it very straight, and there was a lot more that I would have liked to have seen from Nami, i.e., you know, her love of money and her playful side a little bit more. My wife made the comment that she never really shouts, and it wasn't until episode 7 that we saw real true emotion, and maybe that's because she was holding it in so much because of what she was going through. But I think there's more room to see more from Nami. For instance, it would have been great to have a scene where the crew's hungry and Nami decides to cook, and it's all right or it's not very good, and then she charges them money for it, and then that inspires them to needing a cook rather than just turning up at Baratier and going, hey, you, first person who's spoken to me, join my crew. And yes, we know Luffy does that, but there's a little bit more preamble to that, you know? I thought Kobe, fantastic, really, really great. Mihawk, excellent. The Don Krieg fight, I'm not mad at them relegating that. You know, it was long. There were reasons for having Don Krieg, but I don't mind not having that. I noticed they didn't explain why Kurina died. Now, we were under the belief that Down D Stairs killed her, murdered her, should I say, and Zoro would be fighting him in the final battle after he defeats Mihawk, but instead, Kurina just died. And I think that's actually a hint to say that Kurina's death in the anime is more than what we believe it to be. So, R.I.P. Down these stairs. The music, I shed a manly tear when I heard "We Are" in an orchestral theme. I was really worried as well because I was like, can we just not have "We Are"? But it grew on me, and the way that they switched it in episode 8, there's a part at the end when they're looking at the bounties for Luffy from different places and different people that he's interacted with, and the music changes based on where they are. The part with Kaya, where it just goes all classical, then it goes jazzy at Barate. Oh my gosh, incredible, incredible. The musical score, yeah, and that's another example of them saying, you know what, we're going to take the essence, we're going to take the energy of One Piece and reinterpret it. When they did that, great, really great. I think the only other major thing that I realized and wanted to highlight is the use of Santoriu. Obviously, Zoro fights with 3 swords, and it's a very integral part of his character. But realistically, I think we only saw it twice, if not 3 times in the show. You know, once against Axan Morgan, once against Mihawk, and I think that might be it, actually. Because in Kaya's mansion, he fights with 1 or 2 swords, I believe. Now, look, I understand the reason why, you know, because practically having a brother run around with a sword in his mouth isn't safe, looks stupid, and for an actual real-life human being, I don't care what you say, you don't have enough neck strength to do anything with that sword. They made it look cool when he held the sword against Morgan's neck in the first fight, but that was about the only use you can have with it, unless they do something drastic. So I'm kind of concerned about Santoriu because I don't know how and where they're going to go with this. And fundamentally, you can't have Zoro delivering any meaningful lines with a sword in his mouth. So therein lies the problem, and I will be very interested to see how they solve that problem. Having said that though, Sanji's fight style looked incredible. Him with his hands in his pockets, kicking up brothers. Yes, yeah, all the way here for it, absolutely. Luffy, not in sandals, was upsetting, but I can live. Another plot point I just remembered was Captain Kuro was fully like, yeah, they thought they caught me, but they didn't. Anyway, and it was never explained as to why this guy was meant to be dead but wasn't. And, you know, we missed out on Django being in it with his hypnosis and everything like that, but they just glossed over it and it was literally anyway and moved on. So, but look, as much as I'm talking about this series, it's because I love it, and this is a long video, and I appreciate you sticking around and listen to my ramblings about something that I'm extremely passionate about. I would say that, you know, it's absolutely worth a watch. I think it's one of the best live action adaptations we've ever had for such an important and well-loved series, and they've done such a great job. I really truly believe that season 2 is going to be even better because Netflix has the proof that we fans go hard and, you know, #1 baby. So there's, I would hope, more budget for it, more time, better, not better casting, because the casting was good, really good, but I guess more fleshing out of the characters. And when I say better casting, I guess I mean casting of other roles and other minor characters who help to really establish and fully form the world of One Piece in a meaningful way. Oh, quick side, Nami joined Arlong willingly, which then kind of made her having to be chained up in the map room and forced to make maps a little bit pointless. You know, maybe she could have run away, tried to run away or something, and that's the reason, but we didn't see that. And it just made young Nami seem a little bit cold and callous because it was very business orientated. And yes, okay, Nami is somewhat like that, but Arlong kidnapping her and forcing her to do it, and then Nami having to survive and become this person, I preferred that, and I kind of wish they hadn't changed that. So yeah, just another thing. But overall, great series. Netflix need to do events in the UK, and it's disgraceful and upsetting, and I'm mad that they didn't. You know, France got an event. Where was the UK event? That's the real reason I didn't like the Netflix adaptation. Spoiler, because you did no events in the UK, and the UK is fully ready and willing and gagging for more anime events and more anime love. So stop this, Netflix. Stop mucking about. Call me. I will put on the event myself. Okay. If I have to. Give me some money though. But yeah, overall, like I said, thank you so much for watching and just hanging out whilst I talk about something that I truly do love and I'm very passionate about. I think the core crew, the Straw Hats, did a great job. I want to see more Usopp development though. And yeah, just watch the show if you haven't already, and watch the anime if you haven't already, and stop complaining about 1,000 episodes. It's 1,000 episodes of greatness. If there's something that you love, of course you would want more of it. Stop complaining. Shut up. Straw Hat Shao. I'm out. Yeah. Peace.
There's no way you can stop me anymore. The heart's jockey when I talk. Better let me JoJo pose and the bodies on the floor like more. I wanted us, so do I adore. Mad ting. Hacky of a champion, hacky of a captain, hacky of a black kid. Looking like I stepped out a manga pan and I got active.